Welcome everyone here, Facebook Live. Host of Stuff You Missed, Dennis Cox here with you alongside Grant Ament from Penn State Lacrosse, soon to be maybe #1 overall draft pick in the PLL. Also joined by Will Manny of Archers Lacrosse Club. Guys, thanks so much for joining me here tonight. Appreciate you guys giving me your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
I appreciate you having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Will, you're actually kind of familiar a little bit. The show I produce, Sports Channel 8, the radio show, you actually joined us about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So you're actually a little bit familiar here. Grant, you and I actually go way back. Was it 2013 or so, Lake Placid?
Yeah, I think it was 2013, yeah.
Yeah, so Lake Placid tournament 2013. And I like to say I coached you, but in reality, I just stood on the sideline and just watched you make defenders look stupid. Will, have you ever played in Placid before?
No, the only tournament I've played in is the Vail one when I was a junior in college. Other than that, like the Pro League, you can't play in those tournaments anymore. So, and I hope you enjoyed them while they lasted, Grant.
Yeah, they were. I definitely got my money's worth. So I'm okay with a break from Placid for the next few years.
So, Grant, how many times did you play in Placid?
So I played the one time with you, and then I played the following summer with the FCA national team, and then probably played 4 times in high school / late high school / college. I go up with my Mesa buddies, so guys that I kind of grew up playing with. I think Chris Sabia was on that Placid team that you coached, so it's like him and Doc Sakin and all those guys. So we always get a squad going up there. Doc's uncle is actually the one who founded Mesa, so they turned it into a family vacation. My parents come up. It's all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, Will, you probably remember as well when it comes to recruiting, those tournaments that you're playing, Battle of the Hotbeds, whatever it is, so much recruiting that coaches lined up on the sideline all over the place. And, Vail, those tournaments like Placid, you just go there and you play. You don't have to worry about being recruited or any of that kind of stuff. I'm sure you guys probably remember being able to be a little bit more free when it came to those.
Yeah, when you go to those tournaments, I remember going to Vail, and I played on the Merrill Lynch team, and I had Scott Ratliff, Hawkins. We played against Pennell and JoJo Marasco and all those guys that were on Team Maverick. So it was more of a social gathering. You get to meet people and play against people that you never really knew before. And then I remember the year after that, or 2 years after that, that we had like a bye weekend or something, and it was the Ocean City tournament, and we couldn't play in it, but we went down there and just had fun. Just those kind of events and the places and locations that they're in are great. And I know we have a bunch of our Utah guys that are trying to get on teams for Vail because they're more West Coast guys. So it really does, myself personally playing in them, it's created a lot of relationships that I've had, and I'm hoping to help our guys out at Utah try to get to some of these tournaments as well and enjoy themselves.
Now, I'm curious with Utah lacrosse. Are most of the guys that you're recruiting out there that are from Utah, did they pick up the game, 8th grade, 9th grade? Is that when they picked it up because things are so fresh out there?
Yeah, so we've had, I think we had 5 or 6. We had 6 guys that are Utah based on our team this year, which has been the most for our Division I tenure. And a bunch of those guys, it changes. Some guys change positions late. Some of them started in 9th grade. Some started when they were younger because they had older brothers that played. The high school kind of tier wasn't sanctioned at that time. It just got sanctioned this past year. So that's going to elevate it. And we have a club team out here that we've been 2 or 3 years in with Salt Lake Summit. So we got things rolling out here in a good way and just trying to grow the game as much as possible.
I will say, for me, someone who got a little bit of a late start with lacrosse, playing in those tournaments, like Ocean City, like Lake Placid, it definitely helped me grow as a player, just being around so much great talent. Do you guys, Grant, feel free to speak on this as well. Have you played in Vail as well, Grant?
I have not played in Vail, but I played in Placid. I've been asked to go to Vail. It didn't end up working out logistically. I think 2 years ago, a team asked me, and they offered to be able to kind of fly guys out and stuff, but I had an internship, so it didn't end up working out. But Placid, the competition is just unbelievable. You look at I mean, specifically like my team, you know, not this past year, but the year before. I mean, even this past year, but the year before, it was myself, Forey Smith, and Michael Kraus on a line and on an attack line. And you know, Forey starts for Hopkins, captain for Hopkins, and Michael's, you know, obviously a hell of a player from Virginia. And so like even on my team, like I love playing with those guys. But then like you look at other teams, like Hughes always has a bunch of guys, and then you know, even when you go into like the older divisions, which is the pretty cool thing. Like I remember 2 years ago, like watching Gary Gate like do a live air gate was like the coolest thing I've ever seen, you know, lacrosse field. But I mean, like the talent is just unbelievable, and they're paired up with the MLL to do like a Legends game every year. So like you got guys like, you know, the Gates, you got Powell's, you got you know, Liam Banks, you know, all these like, you know, crazy names. And then, you know, you got even more guys like the Carcatero brothers were there last year, and Peacock and I were hanging out on the beach after the game. It was just an awesome environment. So I think you know, both, you know, Placid and Vale just put on such a good venue, and it's kind of like when you're walking around, I think it's pretty cool because like, you know, you walk by guys and like, holy crap, that was Casey Top that I just walked by.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I know.
I think in that
Grant,
aspect,
Grant, you're breaking up just a little
cool.
bit, just to give you a heads up. Sorry if I cut you off there a little bit, but I know it looks like you kind of froze there for a little bit. I'm actually gonna take you down for a sec. I will say, you know, for me, like, I'm sure guys that you've played with before, Will, like my first trip to Placid was 06 when I was in college, and on my team I had Jeremy Sievers, Kevin Buchanan. Those are guys that I played with FCA. So I mean, playing against those guys, I mean, automatically you have to raise your game a little bit. Let's see if I can get Grant back up and running here.
There we go.
There you are. Yeah, sorry, you're breaking up a little bit, so I took you down for a sec. So let's go actually to the summer tournaments, the recruiting ones, and Will, I'll kind of go with you here a little bit on this. With you being an assistant coach at Utah, obviously those big recruiting tournaments all across the U.S. I mean, are those kind of taking a hit? Have you gotten any word on when some of those tournaments may get rescheduled? Are they getting canceled? How does that affect you right now with recruiting, with a lot of this stuff being canceled right now with this pandemic?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. You know, I actually enjoy going to those tournaments. You know, there's such great talent out there now, so recruiting is actually quite fun if you think of it that way. And
yeah, I
know it's going to put a dent on my my Delta status. I know that for sure. A lot of flights, but for me right now, we haven't heard much. You know, I know Maverick got pushed back a week or something so far. I haven't even gotten that far, to be honest. You know, I usually try to line those tournaments and recruiting events up with my PLL schedule. So when we do that is when I'll start looking into it. But it's just brutal for everybody. You know, for some lacrosse companies, that's more of a money-making business when they have those recruiting events, which hurts them. You never want that. And for us coaches, you know, it's the 22 class is loaded and a really good, talented class that we're looking forward to recruit. And now we don't know if we can until the October, November, December events. So it's the same boat for everybody. So that's the way that we look at it. You know, we're not at a disadvantage in any way because no one's getting to see these kids play. And you obviously know some of the top names from seeing them in the past, but everyone's in the same boat.
You mentioned PLL. We'll get to that here in a sec. Just a reminder, everyone that's watching out there right now, you're on Twitter and Facebook Live. Again, I'm joined by Grant Ament, just finishing things up there at Penn State. Also, Will Manny, who plays for the Archers Lacrosse Club of the Premier Lacrosse League. If you guys have any comments that you want to leave, you can leave that right over here on the comment section below here on Facebook Live. You can also leave comments on Twitter at 999thefan. Also, you can follow me at the Fan Rookie, at Grant Ament, at Will Manny _1 on Twitter.
I think so, yeah.
You think so? Okay. So I think your Instagram and Twitter are a little bit different. But leave us questions, comments below. We can answer those for you guys during the show here if you guys feel free to do so. Now, the PLL will announce schedule is going to get pushed back. Things are going to get kind of delayed. I mean, do you know anything more than we do other than what the press release came out from Rabel?
No, I mean, Mike and Paul have just done such a tremendous job with being open and being able to just give that to the fans. Everything you guys have heard, we've heard. The only thing maybe that's different is the different options for us as players for training camp that I'm not going to really go into because we don't know if they're true or how it's going to work.
Sure.
But they're doing everything they can on their end to just make it the best experience for us, trying to get us together for 2 or 3 days as opposed to a week at IMG at a different location, and just putting together scenarios for a shortened season, squeezing in the full season without bye weeks, which I know guys would be down for. But it is what it is. I have a good feeling about it, and it's because of those guys and how well they've done everything so far over the past 2 years. And when we get called for the time to play, we'll be ready to rock.
Now, Grant, you're in the draft, which comes up in about a month. What, with this pandemic, things getting pushed back, has that interrupted any preparation that you have for the draft, or what have things been like for you? Because obviously your season got cut short at Penn State. So how does this impact what you're doing right now regarding training and just getting ready for your professional career?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I'm training for a combine, which is like I'm not going into. They really don't want to see my 40 time. I'll tell them that for free.
I've seen your 40 time. It's not.
I can do a 5-10-5 pretty good, but anything above 10 yards, it's out of my price range. But yeah, I mean, it's in that aspect, like it's not anything that crazy. I think the biggest thing, and I think the biggest thing that guys are beyond me are struggling with is just trying to figure out ways to stay in shape and to keep pushing the envelope, while you're at home. Luckily, I didn't have weights at home, but I went and got them from my aunt and uncle's house. So I've got like some dumbbells and stuff now, along with like med ball, some rope. So like I can get I can get creative with my stuff. I kind of told with all the stuff that I had, I sent it to my strength coach at Penn State, and he kind of just put me on a plan. And so, in that aspect, there's not really anything that's changed. If anything, I think it's kind of helping me progress for life after college and kind of try to get into that groove, because not everybody's blessed like Will to have access to a full crazy college weight room. So being able to be creative with the stuff that I have is definitely the biggest. And then, keeping my stick in my hand, I'm at a park basically every single day. There's one like 5 minutes down the road. It's got a nice backstop for my net. So it's pretty easy in that aspect to kind of stay in shape. And on top of it all, I'm not really in a huge class load. So, school's not really a big problem for me right now. I'm taking one class. So I think I'm going to be all right when getting in terms of getting a diploma. So I'm not really too worried about that. But yeah, other than that, I'm kind of just trying to stay as busy as I can and try to learn stuff with social media. This is all new to me, and ask questions to guys like Will, and I've gotten close with Rob Pennell and guys like that who have kind of extended the arm and said, hey man, if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. So trying to just be a sponge as much as I can to these guys, because they do it so well, and it's always been a goal of mine to be one of them. So trying to do it in the best way possible while still being me at the same time.
Well, you mentioned about being pro. You made the decision not to take that extra year of eligibility. Now this is your 5th year at Penn State. What led to your decision to not come back and take that extra year?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't have any regrets with it. I think first and foremost, the biggest thing that it came down to with me was, I've had 5 surgeries over the past 2 years now. Wow. So, on my feet and ankles. So, that kind of stuff, including one where I had to miss a full year of competition. So, that definitely took its toll on me. And, there's no guarantee for what happens next year, but from a college regimen standpoint, I mean, Will can attest to this. I mean, when you're like in season, right? I mean, it's a good 5-6 hours of your day. I mean, that's like minimum. And, you know, everything with lifting, with film, with, you know, practice times, you know, and that doesn't depend on coach's mood either. So, I mean, if you're not playing well, you can, you know, bet your rear end that it's going to be a 2.5 hour practice and we're going to be running. So, you know, it's definitely, you know, it wears on the body. And for me, you know, at this point in time, you know, I'm able to kind of continue on my career from a professional standpoint, which is what the PLL offers. And I think, you know, using the platform that they have and all that kind of stuff, it really was a good fit for me. And it's much less taxing on the body over time, that I think, you know, a lot of people don't necessarily realize. But it was definitely a tough decision because I'm still with all my teammates and stuff. But, you know, for this time with me and my family, just kind of talking about it, you know, we came up with that. And, you know, I'm very happy with how it's gone thus far. And everything's kind of flying at me, but with guys like Will and guys like Rob and, you know, the guys in the league have just been so awesome, kind of trying to, you know, bridge that gap for me as smooth as possible.
So, Will, what is life like as a pro lacrosse player while you're in season? Because obviously, you know, you both know, we all know from playing in college, yeah, you're 6-7 days a week, you're going hard every day. What's it like being pro? And I guess what's it like in the PLL compared to what it was like in Major League Lacrosse?
Yeah, the best part about that is you make it however you want it. You know, the guys that push themselves and are going at it as much as possible and doing it the right way are the guys that have been successful, you know, the guys that have their sticks in their hands. And you could start to see more and more guys trying to do that, you know, whether that's coaching club lacrosse full time, being able to play indoor and outdoor to make a good living. Some guys are pushing towards that. And then, I mean, I credit the hell out of some of the guys that are working 50 plus hours a week in an office and still get to play. You know, I think I was just in our Archers group chat before this, and a guy like Brendan Fowler, who plays for us, you know, he's trading all day and at a desk and still does what he does, and along with many more. You know, there's plenty of guys out there that it's really impressive. And that's how my career started when I was in the MLL. I worked internally at Bank of America, and I just missed lacrosse so much, and I got into coaching. But, you know, for me, it's more of being comfortable now. You know, I'm going into my 8th year professionally, and for me, I don't have to overtrain. I know my body now, you know, especially like Grant said, like it's less taxing on the body, but you still have to keep up with it, and then know how you feel after a game and how you have to recover is really important. So if I'm going to play wall ball or get my stick work in, I don't have to be out there for 45 minutes to an hour. If I'm good after 15, I'm good. Like I know my limit with that. But a lot more stretching and foam rolling and mobility. I just did a PLL mobility via Instagram about an hour and a half ago. So just little things to make me feel comfortable is my mentality right now. Because right, you play with such talented guys that make you better. So you just have to feel great when you step on the field to be that best teammate as well. But guys do it all. You know, some guys, I think in my mind, overtrain. Some guys definitely undertrain. But as long as they feel comfortable, man, that's all that really matters.
Hey, as long as you get it done on game day, that's really what it comes down to. Like, hey, you're paid to do a job. You got to go do it at the end of the day. So what is the schedule like, I guess, during the week? I know you guys are set to actually come here to Raleigh, North Carolina for the PLL in August. Obviously that can all change, but do you guys show up Friday? Do you guys fly in Thursday night? And what is the actual schedule when you guys actually do show up for games?
Yeah, ideally it's you fly in the morning, like the early afternoon. Like the early afternoon is the latest you get in the day before the game. Okay. So I love getting on early flights. So if we game Saturday night at 7 p.m., we'll have flights out of Salt Lake early, you know, to try to get to Chicago by noon, so you can have some time to just decompress a little bit, and eat a good lunch, and maybe a quick team meeting, or say what's up to the guys, go grab a coffee, and then you have practice, then a team dinner, and the next morning, right? Sometimes teams are different. Coaches will propose, if it's an 8 p.m. game, you'll have the option and field time to have a walkthrough potentially, you know, the next morning to get your legs going and get your stick in your hands. But for me, it's there's times where I try to squeak in getting in 2 days before or stuff like that just to get acclimated, and
Yeah.
But ideally for the league and how it mostly is you get in the day before, you get a practice in, and then you just let it rip.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I can see Grant smirking. I know he likes that.
That was my practice schedule this year. I liked it a lot.
Just show up the day before and let it go.
I was a big game day guy.
Yeah, big game day guy. So Grant, obviously Major League Lacrosse is still out there. Why did you choose PLL over the MLL?
I mean, there's nothing against the MLL, and I think we would
sure.
say the exact same thing. Financially, whatever they can offer, I would definitely have to consider it. But I want to be the best player that I can be, and I think in order to do so, you need to play with the best, and that on-field product in the world is obviously within the PLL. So I want to be able to play alongside of guys like Will, guys on this team, Tom Schreiber, Marcus Holman, like all those guys. I just think each team. I look down the line at every team, and there's like a player that I looked up to when I was younger on each of those teams.
Sure.
And so I think that's pretty cool. And similar to kind of what I said before is, I really want to try to absorb as much information as I can from those guys and try to use it to my advantage, because I think specifically for me, I know when I play with better players and with better competition, my game tends to elevate, and I can kind of, rise to that. And so I think it would be, the best for me. And, given the professional lacrosse landscape, I mean, Will's in year 8, but, and especially with injuries and everything, you never know how long it could be. So, I don't really want to, jeopardize my timetable playing in a different league when I could be playing with, the top guys in the world.
Yeah. Will, I want you to talk a little bit about how the PLL, in terms of it being a player-driven league, a little bit different than what we've seen in Major League Lacrosse. I'm not trying to bash MLL, but it seems like you guys are the PLL. It's very player-driven. It's you guys are at the forefront of the league. The players are so active when it comes to it. And as someone who's a lacrosse fan, it's refreshing to see. How is the PLL for you guys as players structured in a way where you guys can showcase who you are, not only as talents on the field, but you guys' personalities off the field?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And that's a big piece of why guys made the switch too, and because again, a guy who started is Paul Rabel, who played, right? He was the face of the other league for years and face of college lacrosse, and he didn't want it to be one or two guys, as big of a face he is in lacrosse, he wanted other people involved in Paul. And I mean, at training camp, the first thing that they sent out in an email was pretty much like, there's going to be cameras in your face 24/7. If you're uncomfortable with it, you got to deal with it if you want to be in the league, pretty much, because they want the content, they have the team, they have the professionals who have been offered jobs at the NBA and all these other sports leagues and are with the PLL for the media squad, because I mean, you look at their Instagram and their social media, the stuff that they put out is unbelievable.
It's awesome.
And that, right? The perfect example of this past summer is a guy like Connor Farrell, right? A guy that played Division II lacrosse and
drinking
football,
a gallon of milk a day.
gallon of milk a day, and no one a lick of an idea who this kid is. And he shows up at training camp, and he has the thickest Long Island accent, and he has such a cool way about him. He's got the long blonde hair, and no kids would have known who the hell he is. And the media and the background stories and just the individual interviews that they did with everybody kind of set the tone for the whole summer. The stuff that they filmed in training camp was so much that they used it throughout the whole year.
Yeah.
And just allows us, that's that piece to let people see our faces and recognize us now in public settings, which has happened more and more. You hear guys talk about, oh, a little kid said this just at a Walmart or something like that, and I think that's credit to that. And then the other piece is with just how our voices are. We could opinion and say whatever we want on town hall calls and they send out surveys, and they want us to get on the flights that we want, just to be comfortable and be satisfied. So when they say a players league, it really is. And it's such a great experience, as a veteran, seeing how we are treated in a new league for the first year. It's really special because not that the MLL wasn't like bad. I mean, I was fortunate enough to play for two great organizations in that league. I mean, the Cannons were great, and then the Lizards were my home field pretty much. And, but for the PLL, for a guy like Grant, a brand new league 2 years in, and the rookies coming in, they're getting treated like kings. And I don't think they're going to realize that compared to what we used to have. So,
yeah,
but overall, man, that's why, again, I reached out to Grant when all this stuff came out, is because I remember I was on a webcast call this morning with Ryan Boyle, who's one of my all-time favorite attackmen and one of my mentors, who I went to the Cannon. He was in his 10th or 12th year, and he took me under his wing, just to right the ship for how the league is and what to do, what's the best way to go about this. And now I have a great friendship with him for the rest of my life, and he's well known as one of the best attackmen of all time. So I just felt like I had to give back a little bit, and I've admired a guy like Grant's game and his idea and plan of going to the PLL, and he fits exactly what we're looking for with the Archers, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in just under a month now.
So I to what you said, again, player-driven league, it is what you guys make it. That's the best thing. I think we, as lacrosse players, we all feel that responsibility to grow the game. And what a better way to do it than have the best players in the world being out on the biggest medium in the world in terms of social media, showcasing who they are as players and as people. I think it's really great. You mentioned Ryan Boyle. I remember watching him play when he was at Princeton. I grew up in Charlottesville, so right by the University of Virginia. So I got to see the Powell brothers coming from Syracuse, all those guys coming in from Princeton. When I was watching them play. Grant, who are one or two players that you looked up to playing when you were younger, whether not only at Penn State, but in high school or even younger?
Yeah. I remember first players, highlights were definitely Kyle Harrison's, which is crazy that he's still playing in the league.
Were you even born when he was playing in college?
Yeah. So him definitely first, because I actually played midfield up until I was like a freshman in high school. So him and Paul, I definitely looked up to a lot. But then as I progressed, there wasn't like one necessary guy that I looked up to. You look at the guys across the league. Like I loved the way that when Will played for UMass, his quick release up the half. Like I loved how quickly he got it off. I loved Rob's question marks. I loved the way that Lyle just played so freely, and he could do that backhand any day of the week. And I still can't do that backhand, but I continue to try it because the guys like that were ones that definitely inspired me to do certain things. The passing ability of Steele Stanwyck. I don't necessarily think that there was one guy, like speed of Jordan Wolf, Joey Sankey. Those are two Philly guys that I looked up to growing up. And now they're like, I was texting Jordan yesterday. Like he's like a friend. I'm friends with his brother. And so it's kind of crazy. It's a very small community in that aspect. And I think it's also a pretty cool sport in that there's not one player is the same as another. Everybody can have their own certain style. Like you said, people are comparing Mike Sowers to Mikey Powell, but I think he kind of moves like Kyle Harrison moves a little bit. So there are certain different styles that you can adopt, but there's no right or wrong way to do it. There's no you have to only have a right hand, you have to only have a left hand, and I think that's what's so cool about our sport, and I think that's why it's so attractive to people. It's just how fluid it is and how creative you can be with it, while also being able to have contact and be able to be a physical sport all at the same time.
Yeah, and thing is, a lot of people don't realize is that how you set up your stick can define who you are as a player too. Where you got a quick release or you have a lot of whip, whatever it is that you want to do, can definitely set things up. I know for me growing up, I watched a lot of Virginia lacrosse. You surprised some names you guys may not know, but from back in the early 2000s, Trey Whitty, who was a long stick midfielder for UVA. I loved watching him play. He was the guy like I watched and just everything he did on the field. I just kept my eyes locked on him. Him and Billy Gladding. Billy Gladding was one of the best two-way midfielders in college lacrosse, at the time. And another Canadian lefty, AJ Shannon, watching him run the midfield. Those are the guys that I watched. And I saw Kyle Harrison play. I saw Brody Merrill play when those guys were in college. They were just, a few years older than me. Will, I'm going to show this up here for you. I'm sure you probably recognize the name. Hayes Permar, remember the host of Sports Channel 8, the radio show. You just want to comment there saying you're a Sports Channel 8 legend. So just want to throw that up there for you because he's been on the show. Grant, we might have to have you on the show too, get you on the Sports Channel 8 bandwagon. Just to let you know, Will, your name has actually come up multiple times since you've actually come up on our show. Funny story on Friday. Well, actually, Grant, I'll fill you in here a little bit on this. And for those watching may not know, we had John Danowski, since Duke's right down the road from us here in Raleigh. We had John Danowski on to talk about spring sports being canceled and Team USA lacrosse, just kind of how things are affected with the pandemic and everything going on. And I mentioned during the interview, I said, Coach, I'd love to see Will Manny on the USA squad. And it just rolled right into the next question. Just like 5-second little drop, just kind of threw it out there. And then Hayes and the other host, Josh, were just giving me some flack saying, we should have Will Manny on the show. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. So then I reached out to Will. We had you on the show the next day. You're a great interview, by the way, on the show. I actually got a lot of great feedback from people just saying, hey, I didn't realize that lacrosse players had to go through that. And of course, Will Manny drops here for a second. But anyway, so that's one of the reasons why you're a legend. But we actually had in our area some bad storms come through over the weekend. And on Friday, we had some bad winds. And Hayes, who's doing the show from his house, because most of the people here from the station are working remotely with everything going on, the power went out. So he actually had to drive here to the station. He's doing a segment on the phone driving in. And they say, you know what? Then they should just call Will Manny. You two should just do the rest of the show and talk lacrosse for the rest of the show. And I was like, I could have done that. So your name's come up before several times, Will, since then. So you're part of Sports Channel 8 lore. I think I have to hook both of you guys up with some Sports Channel 8 gear, from our station as well. Those guys will definitely be.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we hear you. Can you not hearing us anymore? You'll have to send Will a text here. I'm going to drop him down real quick. But yeah, anyway, so that's just kind of a fun story there. Then, of course, Will wasn't able to hear it, Grant. So congratulations. You got to sit there and listen on that story. You're like, this is completely irrelevant to anything that I said. So, but yeah, so I do want to ask you just one more thing. I know we're kind of wrapping things up here real quick. It looks like we got Will back now.
Oh, man. Sorry.
Now you're back. No, it's all good. I just told this whole story where you've been mentioned multiple times on air since you joined us for an interview, but it's clearly all moot point now just because it's like, I don't want to hear this. How convenient of you to, you guys to, for you to drop off, and I'm giving you all this love that you've been given on Sports Channel 8.
Yeah, that was funny. I mean, whenever that question comes up, it's, Team USA team, and it is what it is. I told you guys, man. I just went out and just played my hardest versus them in that game, that All-Star game, and just try to give the coaches no reason to pass up on me this next time around, and that's all I can really do. It's not in my hands.
I have my thoughts and opinions who you should have made on that, who should have been off that team and you should have been on over, but I'll keep that off. I can tell you that kind of stuff off there. We're going to wrap things up here for you guys. I know we've actually kind of exceeded our time here a little bit, but just want to say thanks to both of you guys for coming out on Facebook Live here on 99.9 The Fan. So again, Grant Ament just finishing up at Penn State. Will Manny of Archers Lacrosse Club, also assistant coach with Utah, the Utes, the men's lacrosse program out there. Dennis Cox here with you, producer of Sports Channel 8, the radio show, as well as the host of Stuff You Missed right here on 99.9 The Fan. One last question here. I'm gonna pop this one up here on the screen. This one actually comes from Lauren Scott. She goes, what do you guys do to get hyped before games? Now, I know Lauren. I actually coach under her. I've been coaching the women's game at the collegiate level for several years. I was a head coach for a few, actually at Meredith College. She's the head coach locally at D3 school here at Meredith College. So she wants to know what you guys do to get hyped before games.
I'm not really a big hype man before games.
Okay.
I actually like on game days, like I like to wake up, get a good breakfast, and then like I take a nap before, like I get like a good 30 minutes in, like 2 hours before the game.
Sure.
And then I get like a good like 45 minute stretch in. And then like as for like warm-ups and stuff, like I kind of stretch up until I need to put on my pads. And then like maybe have my headphones in, maybe not. Kind of just if the locker room tunes are bumping, I'll let them play. But yeah, I'm not really a guy. I get hyped probably maybe a minute or two before the game. I tend to I feel like I like tire myself out when I get revved up. So yeah, like I used to be that kid who had like the Beats headphones and like all this stuff, and tried to look like an NFL wide receiver, before games. But I at some point it kind of clicked, and I was like, all right, I need to stop taking myself so serious. So I put on music. I actually like listening to podcasts. Like I'll listen to like Part of My Take like before the game, and just listen to whatever Big Cat and PFT have to say. That's probably funny. So yeah, it's changed over the years, but I don't know. I find the less serious that I take myself and the more loose I am, the better that I play.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Grant's a seasoned college lacrosse player now. He's been around the block, and you could see and hear, right? He tries to stay more calm and cool, collected before the game because he's been there before, and that's what I've been doing the past 2 years too. I used to be headphones on and listen to house music and just be so ramped up, and then after the first 2 possessions, I was like, I'm gassed.
Yeah, yep.
But now I like to I throw my headphones on. I'll go out in my street clothes or the clothes that I showed up to the game with, and go shoot around the 4 or 5 minutes. Honestly, just get out on the field and kind of clear my head a little bit, and go back to the locker room, get taped up, and stretch it out. And I don't really start feeling amped up until the national anthem. That's always been something that gets me going. That's the best hype song in the world, I think. And I'm the same way as Grant, though. I'm not a 30-minute nap guy. I might take an hour or 2 hour nap.
Okay.
Well, you forget, with Coach Dambroni's meetings, I got to make sure I'm revved up.
College, that's the biggest thing. College lacrosse, and like if you have an 8 p.m. game for college lacrosse, you might have film. You might have things throughout the day. You might have
through the entire day. I get like an hour of downtime. That's it.
Yeah.
We have a walkthrough or team breakfast. We always go the Archers. We always go to a diner. So hopefully when Grant comes on board, you're a diner guy. I know they got some in Philly over there.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
And then I come home and I crash. I throw in a movie, close the blinds in the hotel room, and just knock out and stay off my feet.
Well, when you guys come here to Raleigh, let me know. I'll definitely take you guys out I'll show you guys some cool diners and plenty of great places to come around here. Thanks again to you guys. Any last shout outs that you guys want to give before we wrap up here?
No, all good. Thanks for having us on, Dennis.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Hey, Grant, it's good to see you. It's been 7 years?
You too. It's been probably like 7 years. So
I know it has. I don't think you had a learner's permit last time we actually saw each other.
I didn't. I also had Justin Bieber hair, going across the.
You did have Justin Bieber hair. That is a fact. I do remember that. But yeah, you're a great player then. You're a great player now. Will, thanks. We actually finally can put a face, with the voice and all that. You're welcome on our shows anytime, guys. Really do appreciate your time. Again, thanks for joining us here on 99.9 The Fan Facebook Live. If you missed any of this show, you can go on Instagram, IGTV. We'll have the entire broadcast there for you all as well. WRELSportsFan.com, the WREL Sports Fan app. And right here on Facebook Live, you can watch the entire episode. Grant, Will, thanks, guys, once again. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in and for leaving your comments and everything below. You guys have a good night.
See you, Dennis. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Dennis.